Hello guys, in this video I'm going to be analyzing two of my games which I played against the Benoni. I played an interesting setup, it's very aggressive and it has some fun ideas. Let's dive right into it. I opened with g4, my opponent replies with c5 and I push my pawn, he brings his knight and I play c4. He plays d6, I develop my knight and he plays a6. E6 is a bit unusual, but the big idea is to break with b5. Although I have to say that the main move which is played the most is to push the pawn to e6 and then capture on d5. I played a4 to prevent b5. My opponent plays g6, preparing to pinketo the dark square bishop. I play e4, they pinketo the dark square bishop, and this is the setup I'm talking about. It's I think it's called the 4 pawns attack, probably referring to these 4 pawns. My opponent castles, and here the engine really likes h3 to prevent black from playing bishop g4. This is black's worst piece, so in a lot of cases he wants to trade it for this knight. I, however, started developing my knight because I want to develop as quickly as possible and castle as early as I can. He plays bishop g4, which the engine really likes for black, and I play h3. I took back with the queen, and as you can see from white's setup, white plays on the king side and there are ideas of e4, g4, h4, h5. What white basically wants to do is to attack black on the king side, and black's major play is on the queen side. My opponent develops the knight, and this is to eye this e5 square. If it ever becomes available, he would love to plant his knight on e5. I've developed my light square bishop. He plays queen b6, and this puts a lot of pressure on my b2 pawn, and it also makes it really hard for me to ever develop my dark square bishop because of the queen. I castle first, and my opponent plays knight h5, and the idea here is to try and invade on my dark squares. They are really weak. I think the bishop would be better on g4 rather than g7, which is why my opponent played this move, knight h5. I played a6, and my idea here was after he moves the queen, which he did in the game, now there is no pressure on this pawn, so I'm able to move my bishop. I was debating whether to put my bishop on d2 or e3, and generally I want my bishop on e3 to avoid getting hit with this bishop d4, but I also wanted to put my rook on a1 and to hopefully be able to break with e5. So I chose bishop d2. My opponent plays b6. He took back with the queen. And once again, he's putting some pressure on my pawn. I played rook a2 to defend the pawn, and this is not a move which I want to play because I want my rook on e1 to try and support this break. My rook wants to be playing on this side of the board, not the queen side, but I had to defend my pawn. Maybe it would have been better to defend with the knight or some engine moves. I think the engine recommends something like bishop c1. My opponent continues with rook b8, putting some pressure on my b2 pawn. He's not threatening to take because obviously I take the queen and that would be a good exchange for me. I went with g4, and here he plays a really good move. He plays the intermediate bishop d4 check before moving his knight back, and after I move my king, now he pinketos the knight. It's a bit uncommon, but I think it's a really nice move. I know the bishop is a monster, and here I really wanted to attack black. I was thinking of moves like f5 with the idea to take and open up the f5 or hopefully get to his king. But the issue with the f5 move is it gives away this e5 square for the knight, and the knight would be really comfortable on e5, hitting my queen and bishop. So I played h4. My idea was h5, and if the g5 ever opens up, I was dreaming of putting my rook on the g5 or maybe this way or this square once the bishop is removed. My opponent continues with queen b3, attacking my rook, and the threat is to take my knight, and after I recapture, the rook would be hanging. So here I played rook a1, another move which I also really hate. Like I mentioned, I want my rooks to be targeting the black king, but I had to defend my rooks. I think my opponent here makes a mistake. He takes my knight, and I think this is a mistake because the dark square bishop is one of black's most powerful pieces because white has some weak dark squares, and after this trade now I'm the one with the strong bishop on the dark squares. He moves his queen backwards, and here I went with h5. He plays e6, and the first thing I thought of was taking this pawn and after takes, but I didn't really like the idea of opening up this diagonal. And usually when you want to attack on the flank, you want the center closed up, and so that you can open up the king side and go after the king. So I didn't really like taking this pawn. Instead, I went for h6, and this looks wrong because when you attack generally, you want to open up the positions with something like takes to open up the position so that you can attack. But here I was really counting on f6, which after he moves his knight is exactly what I played. And here I wanted to take either pawn and open things up. And in general, when you are being attacked on the flank, you want to find some counterplay in the center. Here that would be something like takes, but this also looks bad because after takes and takes, the center is still closed up and I have a really strong bishop. So my opponent plays the move e5, but the center is now completely closed up, and I took here. He took with the f pawn. I think it would have been better for him to take with the h pawn. With the h pawn, I would have played something like check, and he still probably was, but I think this is more or less playable. Here he took with the f pawn. Now I played rook f1, and the threat is queen f7 check, and once you move, I hope you can see this. There is queen f8 check, and after takes, I just take with the queen. I think I should go ahead and show it. Let me give Blake a useless move like moving the pawn. So check, you move your king to h8. Now I have check, and after takes, this is made because of this pawn. Here my opponent makes a mistake. He moved this knight to f6, and this is a mistake. I think what he should have done is move the other knight, because now after g4, you move your knight to h5 and would come in with the check. And this is still worse for black, but black is surviving. What he did instead is he moved the other knight. Now g5 comes. And in this position, if you move your knight to h5, queen f8 is made because the knight is blocking the rooks from defending the square, unlike in the other variation. Here my opponent opts to play queen b3 and he's attacking the rook, but here I found this really nice sequence. I took, and he took the rook, which I think is another blunder. I gave a check and he plays king h8, which is another mistake, but at this point black is lost no matter what. And here I don't take the knight, I just promote to a queen or a rook. That would have won the game. And this is the second game. This was played in an arena and we both berserk. If you have no idea what berserking is, it's when you play with half your time to get an extra point in arena. I played d4 and he responded with c5, the Benoni, and I advanced my pawn. And here my opponent plays d6. This is a more common way. After I developed my knight, he took, and he developed the knight. I went with a4, and bishop e7 is a bit unusual, but I go for the exact same setup. And he immediately plays bishop g4, which I believe is one of the computer's top choice. Like I mentioned, this is the worst piece for black in the structures, and the best piece is this bishop, but it's supposed to be on g7. I blocked with my knight, he castles, and I plays h3, very similar to the last game. He took, I took, and he develops the knight, once again eyeing this e5 square, preventing me from playing e5, which is one of the main breaks. I developed the bishop, preparing to castle. He plays g7, and his idea is highlighted by the green arrow. I castled, he moves his rook, and I plays g4. And like in the last game, my ideas are pretty much the same: h4, h5, e4, or f5. And he drops his bishop back. Obviously, he wants to finketo the dark square bishop. I play rook f2, and my idea is to put my rook on one of these squares and somehow break open the king side. And he plays a6, which clearly intends to play b5, and I stop that with a4. He plays rook b5, preparing b5. I start my attack with h4. He plays a move which I don't really understand, knight b6. I wasn't sure what the intention of this move was, and I play h5, continuing to play on the king side. He plays c4, which I guess was the intention of this move, and I move my bishop back, and he moves his queen to e7. I developed my last piece and I intended to bring my rook on a1 and hopefully support e5. He brought his knight back, which I thought was a good move because it added an extra attacker to the square. I played rook h2, and here I was having some ideas of take and then queen h3, hoping for mate on the h file. And my opponent plays knight c5, putting some pressure on my pawn, but he can never take it because I have a lot of defenders. And I add an extra defender, and my intention is also to play the move e5. And he plays queen e7, and here I play the move rook g2 because at first I wanted to just take, but I really didn't like check and trading the queens because I'm the one trying to attack on the king side. So I defend my pawn instead. And he plays bishop d7, which I thought was a huge mistake because now this allows me to play e5. And I took back, which I thought was a mistake, but I think he was already lost because now the knight has nowhere to go. All the squares are covered. Here he sacrificed the knight. He goes for b5. Now I took, opening up the king. He took back with the f1, and now the brilliant bishop takes g6. He took back, rook takes, and the queen is covering the f file. The king has to go to the h file, and after queen h5, this was the end of the game.